I get those accounts to send money. So it looks as though there are a lot of people, but in fact, it's just one person. Again, there are tools and there are mitigation factors for this. And this is a big component of the governance aspect of Gitcoin and their I guess, crowdfunding platform. And this is a big component of what we will be building, and the contributions essentially prior to this going live, a lot of the time will be going directly for this to address these concerns.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in the chat earlier. It says my stream quality is good. I've got 2.5 gigs like of up and down, so I don't know. Well, let's just
TLDR on the stream. Thank you, Luca. That's a nice picture of both of us.
Yeah, I don't, man.
Well, let's continue and see.
This is,
I'm not seeing any messages from people saying that we're no longer live.
Yeah, so we're okay. There's 6 people on here, so they're coming back. I guess if we're killing some time. Stream seems fucky as fuck. All right. Anyway, yeah. Sorry guys. I don't really know what's going on. I'm using the same setup I usually do. It's just I don't know, spotty. So let me get back to the queues. I gotta get back on track here. So this is the first time, as far as I know, that a block producer or a block producer initiative has ever been funded by an EOS VC. So that's a pretty big deal. Was that because you're kind of introduced to them through maybe PBE or through Block.one themselves, or was it because did you go about it some other way? Were there like special requirements that you guys had to go through?
Really
or
don't know.
Okay, it just kind of happened.
I'm not privy to the internal workings of Block.one.
Yeah. Okay.
We worked and we were able to reach consensus between Block.one and us to make this happen. And really, that's where, for me, anyways, that's where I think the proudest moment, or where this really touches, or I guess touches a chord. I'm not even sure if that's the thing in English. Where it really strings a chord? No.
Strikes a chord?
Strikes a chord? Yeah, strikes a chord. Is we were able to, on behalf of the EOS community, come to consensus with Block.one. Something that we knew was a monumental task to achieve for various reasons, not and I'm not saying on Block.one's side, solely on our side as well. To be able to meet regulatory and legal compliance, I guess, compliance requirements, to be able to do something like this, it really is no small feat. I mean, it took a long time for a reason. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of people involved to make sure that this can be done sustainably, and it can be done in a transparent, open, legal. Everything is above ground. It was a lot of work.
So, you're talking about compliance, and I could ask questions about that, but I kind of want to go back to before everything messed up, and we were talking about how the funding works and how you get more credit for more people contributing rather than a few whales.
Yeah.
What mechanisms are in place to monitor that? Is EOS Detective involved in some way? Because I know with that, you can kind of connect a social graph of accounts that have touched each other. Is that part of the secret sauce, so to speak, of how this is going to be sybil resistant, or as sybil resistant as it could possibly be?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different components at play, and this is what they've built is open source, and obviously anybody who knows an open source, you can simply go out and use it. That's kind of the whole point. But we really did get their blessing, so to speak. We've been involved with them to we let them know what we wanted to build, and we wanted to make sure that they were cool with that, and that here's what our intention was. So we're really inspiring ourselves from what they've built. And a big part of it is really a replica of what they've built. And then we add flavor because we've got tools on EOS, and you mentioned one of them, EOS Detective, which will be leveraged, or we have an idea to leverage it in a very specific way because we've used it in the past for an AML KYC product. And so we'd be expanding on that functionality. But that's going to be one of the tools. And one of the ways that if people have used Gitcoin in the past is your account creation is your GitHub account. And so that's what your account is when you sign up your profile or when you link it. And the way that we envision doing, anyways, like one of the ways or one of the extra features that determines how much you get is that you essentially get additional points or an increased ratio, an increased multiplier when you do X, Y, Z. And as you do others and you do other check marks, you get matched further. So for example, in your case, let's say you've set up your GitHub because that's the minimum requirement, but you've also linked your LinkedIn profile, and you've linked your Facebook, and you've also done SMS perhaps, and you've done, for example, Gitcoin has Bright ID. You've also done Bright ID and you've done a bunch. Now your funds, in your case, because I've got a higher, not chance, but a higher confidence that you are indeed Zach, that you're indeed a real person, and you're essentially, submitting a lot of information about yourself to showcase this using the tools and the options that I give you available. Then perhaps Zach, when you do contributions, I will match at 140%. So maybe in Gitcoin's case, I think it's Bright ID gives you a +30, Facebook +5, LinkedIn +5. And as you add things, I now have a higher degree of confidence that they call it a trust score, that you are trustworthy. And so whenever there's a dollar that gets matched, your contribution will get matched at a higher rate than, let's say in this example, I only have a GitHub account and I passed the checks and marks to be a real person, but I didn't really submit any extra information. So that's going to be one of the ways kind of at the base. And as I just said, a lot of them will be kind of social, I guess, extra KYCs done in a sense, or social, adding social reputation to the mix. But then we're going to use tools in the background. As you mentioned, EOS Detective is very good at tracking movement of coins. And we see EOS Detective coming in very handy when we talk about collusion prevention. Because we'd be able to see that, for example, Zach sent to these 3 accounts, and these 3 accounts 5 seconds later then contributed to the same thing at the, so there are ways to be able to do this. But as we build over time, we're going to get better at this. We're going to have, a higher reputation, higher trust scores. We're going to have, stronger systems in place. And that's when then we'll be more confident with accepting more matching funds from more matching partners. And ideally this, we're able to also see the value, the experience gets better, the word gets out, there's better quality of grants being proposed. And we also see perhaps more people contributing. So we saw in Gitcoin's case, I think the first round, if I'm not mistaken, something like 200 people participated. And in the last round, if I'm not mistaken, 10,000 people participated and contributed. So wow. You also see data-driven how many people now start to participate in your system, and that feeds into, and then you start building.
All right, so I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what this buffering stuff is. I'm going to probably take down the line. All right, I'm sorry.
On my side, I'm just on Zoom, so I don't see any of this.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean. It's not my internet because I'm not messing up with you, but for the live stream, it keeps buffering. All right, so I'm going to repeat again. Station as the consensus builders. With the first couple tries at a WPS, one of the biggest arguments you would see from the EOS community is people worried about block producer collusion. Block producers already are sucking all of the funds out of the ecosystem, and now they get to decide who's getting funded with it. So that's a huge component to this, is that the block producers have nothing to do except as token holders themselves of
it's irrelevant.
How proposals are determined to get funded and by how much their funding gets matched. So I think that's a huge component to this, because that was always something
that's one of the biggest. I mean, there were a lot of concerns that were brought forward about the previous iteration, which we felt that we had addressed or we had mitigated to an acceptable extent. But that particular concern still remained, the perception of conflict that block producers would inevitably have more power than they currently are perceived to have. And in this particular system, it's irrelevant to the equation. It's not a variable. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Where we do have power, and this is not block producers, it's us as the system administrators, is we are essentially the final check to determine whether or not there was collusion or sybil attack. And then should we want to not, for example, allocate matching funds to Zach's grant. But in order for us to do so, and again, thank you very much for Gitcoin, to Gitcoin, we will need to produce governance reports, and we're going to need to produce a report after every round and highlight what we gathered throughout that round, the patterns, the trends that we saw. Did we stop anything? Did we let anything go? Was there anything suspicious? What are we going to be working on next based on what we have? So for those who don't know, the round in Gitcoin is every 3 months, but the actual funding period, the actual contribution period is only 2 weeks of that 3 months. So it's relatively short within that 12-week period. The rest of the time is to going through the motions of doing the governance documents, to going through the collusion and anti-sybil, I guess, components of things. And so that gives you that kind of the timeline to be able to do that every 3 months.
All right,
but
so
that was a big one. This is irrelevant to the equation.
You just said the word timeline. It was in a different context, but when could we expect to see this? How far along is it in the development?
Yeah, so we've already started. You can imagine that this isn't our first crack at the wheel. So we are as experienced as anybody could be, I guess, in this realm. But we did start building tangible components, smart contracts and UI and components now for a bit. And we expect that the first round should be live up and running in Q3 of this year, give or take mid Q3. I don't want to give an exact date because really can't predict down to the day, but give or take mid Q3, we should see the first round, and we should have a second round by the end of the year, either right at the end of the year or just the beginning of the year, but give or take the Q4.
So Q3 is what, July then? So, and you said mid-July or mid-Q?
Yeah, like July, August, September, sometime in that range, we should have the first iteration. Again, as long as everything passes checks, as long as we're comfortable, as long as we feel confident that the user experience is good enough, likely what we're going to do is we're going to release the portal. People will be able to use it. They'll be able to start creating their grants. There's a bounty function to this as well, which we haven't even touched on. It's a grant and a bounty. So there's those two components are the two features that we're launching with. But that portal will be live for a period of time as we continue doing testing, but for people to get confident and to be able to use the platform prior to the round even starting. And so that should be even before that, or at the beginning, let's say of Q3 or something like that. But within that Q3 period, we should have the first round done and let's say complete.
So I'm kind of familiar with Gitcoin. I never used it. Well, I have for like Liquid Apps. We looked into using it at one point. And you mentioned the bounties. So the two options here is the grants, which would be the grants are the ones where me as a developer or someone of some skill set that wants to add value to the EOS mainnet, I would write a proposal. What are my deliverables? What are my milestones? Well, not even how much money I'm asking for, but how much money I need, but it comes from donations.
But you might break it down, right? You might say, if I'm able to raise $1,000, I'll do this. If I'm able to raise 10,000, I'm able to do this. And if I'm able to raise 100,000, I'll do this, or whatever. You might break it down.
It's like a Kickstarter, if that's exactly what a Kickstarter campaign looks like. So that's the grants. The bounties are actually great for projects themselves. So if you're like Shintai or like Dice or something, and you want the community to build something that benefits your platform, maybe an integration, they could put a bounty out that says, I'm offering this many tokens or this much money. Whoever wants to apply could apply through this platform. So the platform's great for that. And then the other thing that you could do is the community could maybe even come together and fund a bounty for something else. I don't know what it would be, like maybe add a wallet integration or some new functionality that doesn't exist on EOS, and then some enterprising development team will apply for it. And I'm not really so I guess the bounty creator would be the one that decides who gets it in that case. It's not the same. The decision making is different. Whenever you create a bounty, the bounty creator, it's their consensus. It could be centralized.
But there's still checks and balances in the sense that you build your reputation on the platform. And if, Zach, you're known to put up bounties and not pay them, you will lose your privilege to be able to put bounties on the platform. Or you will essentially ruin your reputation within the platform, which will negatively affect, unless you're able to justify why, for some reason, Eve applied for your bounty, he did the work. He says, so there's going to be a dispute resolution side of things for this. He says that he did the work. You say, no, that's not what I asked for spec. And perhaps there's going to be a third party that comes and makes a decision, or you might actually put your decision up perhaps on the portal and say, this is why I'm not. And then it'll be up to people later on to judge whether or not whether or not Zach is indeed in the right, or Eve was in the right in this instance.
So that wasn't in the
stopping from the duel from happening as well.
A duel. So that's how you solve from the arbitration.
A matching partner
to
be able. Well, actually, there's a bunch. There's a bunch of stuff there. Well, there's nothing stopping from me as a matching partner to also contribute to projects.
Okay.
At the same time, let the community, or the Quadratic Fund, but essentially the community, be the baseline, the guideline for where those matching funds go. The other thing that you can do with the bounties is that if you're a company and you're looking to recruit individuals, you may put up some small bounties, which are effectively job postings. Hey, we're looking for a front-end developer. If you're able to complete this task in this amount of time, we're going to pay you a certain amount as a bounty, but it's also, in a way, a job interview to see if we want to work with you later on. And so we see in Gitcoin that people leverage their reputation on the platform to then apply to companies within the platform that are also participating in other fashions, because now they've got an online reputation within that community with actual work. So there's a lot that you can do with this platform over a period of time, but we're going to start step by step.
And everything you're talking about, we're not even really get into all of Dan's things today because we could do that tomorrow, but some of what he's talking about sounds like it could relate to this later on. And I don't think that was done on purpose necessarily, but it might turn out to be a good outcome. He's trying to, it seems like, turn Clarion OS into some sort of identity layer. But regardless, what you're building is being built as it was, because I think you were building this long before Dan started kind of showing his cards and his plans, because that's only been in like the last week or two.
But that's just one person that messaged me.
Yeah, so I just won't repeat myself then every time it freezes.
Now I'm hearing somebody else that says, what happened to the live show? It's
Tube. But anyway, so whenever I was mentioning before how I had tried Gitcoin before, because we're potentially going to create a bounty for Ethereum developers on there, one feature of Gitcoin is that it allows you to fund not only with DAI, not only with Ethereum, but also certain like liquid, like third-party tokens. Is that something that'll be possible in this platform?
Yeah, that's on the roadmap. So in the beginning, the idea is to accept EOS and to run this in EOS, but we are building it with it in mind that on the roadmap, there will be other matching partners in the future. There'll be other promotions, other people that can leverage the code. This is going to be open source, but other people will be able to leverage the platform to run their bounties and grants essentially within their own the currencies. And so the platform will enable that. It'll be built with that in mind for sure.
So I mentioned in the intro, I kind of took a liberty on it. This will all be deployed on EOS mainnet, right? It's an EOSIO product. It's open source. Any other chain could deploy it. But as we see on Gitcoin with Ethereum, I've seen like even non-EVM chains use Gitcoin. Like Solana has done grants on Gitcoin before, even though they're not even Ethereum. So do you think that other chains like Wax or Talos, would it be in their best interest to just use this one because it'll serve their purpose? Or do you think we'll see a deployment elsewhere?
Well, the two chains that you mentioned have their own WPS system, so maybe not those two, but perhaps. But maybe they might want to reach an olive branch and see that there's potential to go get and enlarge in their communities on EOS. And so they'd want to do something on EOS in order to be able to, reach out to these new people that aren't necessarily participating. They're different systems as well. So one is more of a top-down approach, whereas this is really a ground-up. This really creates movements. The whole point is if you're able to showcase that you have a large following, and you do have, and they don't need to have money. They really don't need to be, wealthy individuals. This could be 500 people donating 0.5 EOS, but because there's a lot of them, it amplifies the matching. So this really essentially fosters and helps create communities. And the other WPS systems, as far as I know, don't have that embedded functionality. And even the one that we had done before, the Dash inspired model, did not foster. So you mentioned earlier that one of the things is the BP narrative, and the BP having more power, and or the perceived conflict of interest with BPs. So that's one thing that this addresses. But the other thing that this addresses specifically is the fostering of communities, the creation of communities, the really empowering of communities, regardless of where they are in the world, regardless of what their base currency is. In this system, it is the opposite. You may, if you want to go check out Gitcoin, there's a nice little simulator. And when you enter the numbers, it kind of gives you the output. But there are circumstances where you're getting matched at 200%, 300%. So you put $1 and the system matches $300. Depending on how many other projects get funding and how much was in the funding pool, etc. But it can be quite significant in terms of matching. So it can be really empowering for people. Somebody who only can donate $1 or $5, but in the end it gives you, Zach, $300, $500. It can be really, really empowering for those people because they feel like they actually make a difference to you, and they do. And that's a feature that I think is probably my favorite one. It really does foster that community development. It really empowers communities. It really empowers just regular people. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I got it. So for anyone watching or listening, like they're thinking about this, so they know mid-ish Q3. If they want to have their proposals ready to go, what do you personally hope to see a lot of? Like, what kind of development do you think needs done? What kind of community efforts are you looking for? Like, call out the people to let them know.
So I'll get it out of the way right now. I'm hoping that you apply. And again, in this system, I can say that because I'm not going to be voting on it. It's irrelevant what I think, right? But I do believe that people like you that have been dedicating their time, that clearly have a following, they've got a reputation within the community, you could easily benefit from something like this, where the fruit of your labor, essentially what you've invested over the last 3 years, sweat equity, can really come out and be valued in a system like this. So I really do hope that you apply. I really hope that the community vouches for you and that they really come and support you in a really long way, because I think it can make a huge impact to somebody like you, who's been essentially running this on your own budget, right? For the last year at least. So something like that. I think especially because we're gonna be ramping up kind of the matching levels, and that the platform is going to grow. In my opinion, the types of projects that are suitable for something like this are more those that require kind of a one-shot injection of funds and that can perform and act quickly. And so I don't see this platform as as suitable, let's say, for somebody who wants a permanent job. Like if you're looking for $50,000, you've got a business, or you got a whatever, something that you're doing, and it requires $50,000 of capital per month, every month, and it needs to be subsidized. There's no way around it. Perhaps this is not the best type of platform. Maybe it is. I mean, it's not for me to judge. That'll be for the community to decide and the backers to decide. But because it's not necessarily guaranteed, right? Every 3 months you're reapplying, you get an injection of funds, and then you need to reapply. And of course that's possible, but I'm not sure that that's maybe optimal for that design. So I really see the different types of projects that are the, perhaps quicker rate of return, quick wins, smaller budgets, a lot of them, and they're able to quantify what they've done so that they build that reputation so that they can build more, build more, build more. Maybe it's more, marketing and communications. Maybe it's more educational material. Maybe it's portals for, we see that in EOS, there is significant resources lacking towards the onboarding of users. So maybe it's the facilitation of onboarding of users, but done through, professional materials and a common website. If Dan has worked on his website and now it becomes a repository where people come and that's kind of the place, your first portal or your first wave of entry, well, there's going to need to be educational materials on there, videos, that kind of thing. I think that that's very well suited for that. And I think that we need that. I think that we really do. It's not to take away from the tech. Obviously, the tech is incredibly important. But right now, the tech on EOS is very strong. It's very powerful. What I think we need a little bit more in the short term, anyways, and with quick wins, would be more of that educational marketing type of material that we really don't have as much anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you were talking about some of your examples, like Christoph Mikel, his EOSIO developer ebook. You're probably familiar with it. It's one of the best resources for new developers. So we did the Everything EOS developer courses with Pete K back in the day. Like that would be something awesome. I know on Gitcoin, I keep looking for it, but I'm trying to multitask. But like some of their top DeFi newsletters are funded through Gitcoin, like the Defiant. There's a few others, but they're all through Gitcoin, and that's what really helps.
And it could even be people from outside the ecosystem,
mm-hmm.
right? So, I mean, as much as people within the ecosystem will have ideas, I'm looking forward to people that aren't in EOS that see an opportunity now. Let's say there's somebody who is a more of a what's the word? A generalist? A generalist? Yeah, a generalist. I get those brain farts in French. So somebody that's more of a generalist and that's in crypto and that produces marketing materials and or educational materials for crypto in general, but they haven't been supported by EOS, this would be a means for them. And perhaps they have large followings and they want to teach people about EOS, but typically, they need a little bit of funds to be able to do this, and other projects are donating money or they have foundations or they've got means to support. This will be one of the ways to support. And so we hopefully be able to unlock a lot of people that aren't currently in the community, that are producing materials externally, that now would perhaps have a focus on EOS, because we're missing a lot of that. We're really not in that realm.
Mm-hmm. What about, so we know it's been lacking. So we've been lacking things to strengthen the community. We've been lacking good marketing, good better communication, like newsletters. Like you guys are doing hot sauce. Like without hot sauce, like with Rob not being here for over a year, like we don't do the weekly shows anymore. So we're not like doing that. Like you guys are carrying the torch. Like EOS Nation's the only one. Like it would be great to see someone else that wants to do something similar. Back in the day, there used to be like 4 or 5 different, I don't know if it was too redundant, but they're like 4 or 5 block producers all doing their own thing. EOS Nation had EOS New York had a newsletter. You guys, I don't know when you started the hot sauce, but there's a lot, which is good because you get other people's perspectives. Because even when Rob and I were doing the weekly the weekly show, like we would talk about the stuff that's interesting to us, and people would be like, why don't you talk about this project? Well, I don't use that project. Like I don't follow that, so I'm not going to talk about it. But then you have a variety, and it's, as far as like decentralization, the whole community has choices too. They don't have to just follow this one YouTuber. They could follow, they have a choice of like 4. Plus Correct. They all have like newsletters now where they could even like pay some other people to help write them. Like if I wanted to start a newsletter today, I could try to ask some friends and try to get them to volunteer and be like, I can't pay you anything because it's out of my own pocket and I don't make any money doing this. So if I wanted to do a quality newsletter with like editorial pieces, like that would be a great concept for this. Just throwing some ideas out there. EOS Marketplace in South America. EOS Marketplace
is a really good, I think that's one that we had talked about. They've got a huge community and they're growing exponentially. And it's one of those where, they have a lot of issues because of, obviously the currency is devalued. And so that's one of the reasons why they use this, but then they don't necessarily have the capital, but they have large numbers and they actually do really, they do a lot of good. And people often ask like, well, how can I help? How can I help? Like, I want to help your project grow. What can I do? they could easily have a grant up there and people would be able to give money, which would then perhaps reduce the cost for the people. Maybe it would subsidize either better platform or better resources, or reduce the cost for the individuals, like kind of discounts, that kind of stuff. Again, the power of communities. It's all about community building. This is really at the core of this model.
What about it? So you have the EOS Nation Ambassador program, and I'd say that's been a wild success. And you guys have been able to do it because you're one of the, in my opinion, I don't know all the block producers, but you went into this business knowing that it's going to take a long time. You need funding outside of your block rewards. Like, I think that was the biggest mistake for a lot of the VPs we don't see or hear from as much anymore. But you built this great ambassador program, but you did it as like a BP, but now the next group of ambassadors could form like a DAO and say, we're the EOS Ambassador DAO, and we're going to apply for funding collectively, and we're going to build an ambassador program. I can think of a lot of really cool stuff, and I can't wait to see this. I want to backtrack. You mentioned the initial fund. It will take other tokens, but the initial source is EOS. Now, the press release says that Block.one is going to funding each and every round, whereas Block.one didn't commit to that. They committed to the first round, and they said they want this to be community driven and self-funded. Also, it uses that keyword in the press release. So without Block.one, or maybe after Block.one, or in partnership with Block.one, maybe, how do you anticipate the matching to happen after that first round? Because the first round is the only thing that was public in the press release.
There's a lot of things to unpack in what you just said.
I was rambling.
So let's back up. The grant that we've received, or that we are receiving, is for the development of the platform. So the number that you've seen is not the matching number. It has nothing to do with the matching numbers. That is for us to build the platform. Once the platform is built, then it is up to us to continue to maintain it. Obviously, in the discussions leading to us receiving a grant, that those discussions occurred as to, well, we're not going to fund the platform if then you can't run it afterwards. So we needed to provide a business plan as to how we intend on continuing to operate this platform. There are multiple ideas that are out there. We're still working on this. So we do have ideas that are in the lead versus others, but I don't necessarily want to speculate. But you can go and do your research on how Gitcoin does it. That's one of the ways. So they charge a percentage of the grant funds, essentially. Like there's a maintenance fee or an administrative fee. That's one of the ways. Another way is to apply within the portal itself. And that's the method that we did it in the first platform that we built, which was essentially we operated, and after the fact, we then tried to seek funding from the platform itself. But after we've done the work. So people, if they like the platform, they want us to continue to operate it, then they could donate some funds, and then it would be matched. And then that would be how we get our operational budget. That's another method. And then there are other ideas that are being floated around that I don't want to get into. But yes, definitely we had to have that. We had to have a plan in place, and we do have a plan in place. But just how exactly, that I won't comment on right now. And for the Block.one side of things, I'm not.
We've only seen commitment from Block.one. Do you anticipate that there will ever, at any point, maybe not even initially, be additional collaborators who will do grant matching, like the same thing Block.one's committing to do? Really?
Yeah, we're already working with. We already have ideas. It wouldn't surprise me that we'll be able to launch with more than one matching partner. Actually, maybe even more than two. So that's in the works, and that's part of the plan as well. We see that there are natural players in the ecosystem, EOS and out, that are I guess well suited to be able to do this. And there are various ways of funding this type of thing. But again, incremental steps, incremental process. Gitcoin is at its 9th iteration now that's going to be launching. And with each one, they've learned and they've learned and they've learned and they've adopted. We're really lucky that we're able to piggyback on what they've done, and we're able to leverage what they've done. So we really hit the ground running. We're not if I backtrack 2 years ago when they did their first round, we're not starting from there. We're starting where they are now, but we're first time operators. We're the first time to not just us, but the EOS community as well. And at this point in Ethereum, they know what to do. They know how this works. They know how to fill out forms. This would be your first time, and it'd be our first time maintaining it. It would be our first time determining whether or not it meets the requirements, whether or not there's been collusion, Sybil attack, etc., whether or not it meets the definition of a public good, that type of thing. So we're going to take it step by step, but for sure, additional matching partners are in the works. And this will be a huge focus of ours, is to continuously get more and more matching partners. And some of them might be, naturally block producers would be good matching partners, exchanges, whether or not they're block producers or not, but other exchanges that are not currently in the EOS ecosystem, large corporations that might want to dip their toes in the sand in blockchain, and they're not too sure what, how, or think about it the Gitcoin has a hackathon function. This in a way kind of works like a mini hackathon in some way for somebody who just wants to start. So we do have a lot on the horizon for that. The roadmap is, we've built an extensive roadmap. We're working on this for a while.
Is that roadmap ever going to be public, or is it just like your internal roadmap, so you're not making too many promises?
Yeah, no, we do have the intention on releasing a lot of the materials. Gives a little bit of time. The focus has been to get to where we are today, which was in itself a huge milestone. But yes, we do. You have to think we did go through the EOS VC process. And so in order to be able to get the green light, we produced a lot of materials. And so we do have those materials, and we do intend on sharing more and communicating more. I mean, this is just the first day, and this is already my third interview. So we do intend on sharing more and more. We're going to get the portal up. People, I know you're going to ask maybe later, but people are asking about names. We do have a name in mind, but prior to the trademark being secured and the domain being secured, we do have domains secured, but prior to the one that we'd like perhaps being secured, I'd rather keep that on the down low and not mention that. But as we kind of build this, and as we start having, the website and the original portal, and then we have the branding, and then we start having materials, like this will be built over the next couple of months live in front of people. And people follow everything we do is open source. People follow our accounts. You'll likely also be able to see the smart contracts. You'll be able to see the GitHub repos that'll eventually be public and stuff, and you'll be able to see kind of the iterative process, just like we did with the other WPS systems.
Someone in the channel asked, how will EOS Nation communicate with EOS Asia? That's not really my question. My question is, how do you plan to...
It's a good question.
How you talk?
I'll give you background. So
yeah,
like,
so what's how do you split the work, and what's the relationship? Yeah,
they speak languages, but no. For those who don't know, EOS Nation and EOS Asia have been in partnership together now for a long time. From the beginning of the mainnet launch, EOS Asia was a key player in getting the mainnet launched, and Dafeng, who's the founder of EOS Asia, and I have been very close for a very long time, and we've worked on multiple projects together. The first formal one was Link. I don't know if you remember Link, but the whole intent was to link and to help facilitate bridges between East and West. And we're talking about 3 years ago at this point, or 2.5 years ago at this point. EOS X is a platform that they launched, but we've been now for a 1.5 years active contributors, and we're essentially partners on EOS X on the platform. So we've been working together for a very long time on projects. And so communication is not an issue. We have a lot of Chinese staff. They have a lot of English staff. Dafeng and he communicates in English. I cannot communicate in Mandarin. But yeah.
So
for those who know, I spent
also...
months and months in China, although I can't do that right now. But that was part of the mix for a period of time. Whenever I do go to China, Shanghai, and Dafeng's place has a very special. It's a very special place in my heart. We're very, very close in terms of working together on products.
EOS Asia, they're also, correct me if I'm wrong, they back EOS Go. Like EOS Go is like their baby, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so they purchased EOS Go, or they acquired EOS Go when that was put up for sale. And so they've been maintaining it for the last 2 years or so. I don't know how long it's been, at least 2 years, I guess.
So that, like, something like that, or even that would be probably something that would be able to apply for a grant. They've been adding a ton of value through the EOS Go. Like, every time there's breaking news, that's the first place that I usually see a written article on it is from the EOS Go.
Good job, Jerry.
Yep. I went through all of my questions. If anyone has anything they want me to ask Yves while he's on here, bring it up in the live chat. Is there anything? I know we're going to be doing this again tomorrow, so we could probably hold off on talking about bigger EOS things. I know EOS Nation's been pretty busy. We got NFTs on EOS now. They're trying to get some more adoption. Let's see if we get some questions. Are you texting your wifey?
No, I'm looking to see if I'm getting questions, because I know, because I'm getting messages of this feed is so frustrating. I'm looking to see if anybody is asking questions in the Telegram channels.
Yeah, it's frustrating for me also, people. I don't really care for the buffering, but let's see.
Seems odd. We'll try to fix that for tomorrow.
What is there any, outside of kind of making it happen in the background since the summer, do you anticipate the PBE having anything more to do with the crowdfunding than what's happened? Like, pretty separate?
A weird. I'm not even sure what you're asking.
So I don't. So
I'm not sure how to answer because I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah. So you guys are building it, but once it launches, is it going to be like supported by PBE through like communications? Like, is it like officially endorsed by like PBE?
It's a kind of good. I mean, I guess in a sense, it's endorsed by Block.one. But no, as of this morning at 10 a.m., the platform is ours. It is, we operate it, we lead this. This is our baby, fully funded by Block.one. Block.one is funding this project, the development of this project, but the ongoing creation, maintenance, etc., that is ours. There's going to be a lot of communication with the PBE as we progress towards towards launch, etc. Like, this is just the beginning. As we move towards launch and then subsequent launch, etc. Like, we're going to keep everybody informed in terms of what we're doing, and obviously do back and forth. But otherwise, I'm not really sure what to say. I'm not sure what you're looking for as a. I'm not too sure what the question is other than that.
Yeah, I was just stretching there, I guess, because I didn't see any good questions in the chat. Nothing was coming in.
All right.
I think that means it's time to wrap things up. Like we said, we will be back in less than 24 hours, actually.
Yeah, less than 24 hours.
19 hours from now, we'll be back. I will try to see what I can do about this buffering. Maybe it just needs a good old reboot. I don't know when the last time I rebooted was. I have no idea. Sorry about that. I have no idea. My connection's good. Yves said that I have not disconnected with him. It's YouTube. I guess it's censoring EOS because there's some great news. This is amazing news. I hope if I don't know who wouldn't have gotten excited about this just from the press release. But like I said, the press release didn't give nearly as much detail as you just spent the time doing, and you said you've done 2 other interviews. I know there should be an EOS Writer article out sometime. Yeah. Who is the other interview with, so people could just be looking forward to it?
It's not a formal interview. It's
okay.
Nothing that will be shared.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and you guys are always available in the Telegram channel, but this is amazing news. Q3 cannot come soon enough. I think everyone's going to be chomping at the bit to apply. Hopefully we get hundreds of applications, but I'll be happy with dozens of applications. But what's the saying? You always miss the shots you don't take.
Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, for sure.
Yeah, so I have nothing else.
We really look forward to what the community is going to come up with. We really thank the community for their support. It's been regardless of just the WPS, it's been very difficult for people in the EOS community for a period of time. And you can imagine that we're not impervious to that. It's just it's not because we're a BP or we're in the top 21 that things aren't, tricky, and or we don't also have emotional ups and downs and such, and that we don't wish that we did things in different ways, or that the ecosystem was different as a whole in certain aspects. So this, for me, is a huge win, not just for EOS Nation, EOS Asia, PB, Block.one. It's a huge win for everybody. Anybody who's still involved in the EOS community should be really excited, really happy about this. This is a huge win. Like I said, I think for us, for me anyways, the big part about this is we were able to reach consensus between a lot of different stakeholders in the ecosystem this time around, including Block.one, like the major support from Block.one. So very tremendous thank you to Block.one, tremendous thank you to PB.
All right. I got one question. I know you just wrapped it up, and that would have been a great time for me to say it's over, but Nova Crypto just asked, is it intended to platform to also, I know you're going to make the UIs, but I think I interpreted the question differently. Do you only expect one UI to happen, or because Gitcoin only has one hosted UI. Is this something that you expect there to be more than one, or is everyone just going to use, like, I don't see a reason.
Well, the question is, do I expect? No, I don't expect, because I mean, honestly, to be able to create a UI, to maintain a UI, to track people to your portal, to track matching funds, etc. Unless I guess you'd plug in somehow, it's possible, but I guess I don't expect it. No, I would think that likely the UI that we're going to be building, in great part because it's funded, and it, obviously you see the grant number, so it's going to cost us a significant amount of money to be able to get to a point like that. I'm not convinced that there's going to be multiple UIs for this, but nothing stopping people from doing the smart contracts will be open source. I mean, the UI itself is open source in the sense that you can see it, but no, I don't think that would be the case.
And then now the questions are coming in after I did you
Great.
cover the
Let's
questions?
answer some questions.
What changed that allows B1 to give money? I mean, they've always given money to different entities. It's just not necessarily people that the community heard about or cared about. I mean, we did the interview with FinLab, and he mentioned a lot of projects many people never heard of, and they're like building some really cool shit. But I think the question is, like, the block producers and things specifically for EOS, like, was there a turning point that you saw, or is it just something out of scope of what you would be privy to? What changed?
I can't answer because I don't know. I'm not privy to their internal workings, but I guess it's not a precedent that they've given out grants. If you recall, they gave, what was it, 30 grants, 25 or 30 grants, $50,000 grants at once. Yeah, $50,000 grants, 30 of them.
That was less than a year ago. That was like they were distributed like last May, maybe.
But then some teams in there were obviously, if I go through the list, I recall maybe 12 or 15 of them that I knew, or that I knew of. And so I don't think that that's necessarily unprecedented. Perhaps the level of the grant and the, I guess, significant of the grant, perhaps. But for me, the amount is more so simple. We are tremendously happy with the support that we're getting from Block.one. For me, just think about, we've been working on this for 3 years. The symbolism of what this represents, the idea behind it, that's really why I'm so happy about this.
I just want to point out,
formally getting the support from Block.one for something.
I just want to point out that I've read every news press release that Block.one's put out since there's been a Block.one, and you're only the second block producer they've ever endorsed. Well, in EOS Asia, you guys are only the second block producer they've ever officially endorsed through a press release. You know who the first one was?
EOS Cafe? Google.
Sure. They would all never mention.
I guess EOS Cafe is different with the EVM. Huh? Because it was Said. It was not even EOS Cafe. It's just Said. Yeah,
I mean, they mentioned EOS New York when they hired EOS New York, but it wasn't in relation to their BP. It was just, this is what they used to do. So so you guys are only the second active block producer to get that public endorsement, and the first one was Google. So I think we could end it there, man. We'll be back in like 20 hours. I can't do the math, but
and 19 soon. Hours, what you said earlier. Soon, yeah.
4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. It'll be me, Eve, and Dan. We will be talking about everything else EOS outside of the crowdfunding platform. So I guess until next time, we'll finish this off with the old go EOS. Ready? Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, All right. Are we doing a 1, 2, 3? How are we doing this?
It's been a while. It's been like 3 weeks. It's been like 4 weeks since I've done one of these. I can't remember.
So, everything EOS.
Oh, until next time.
Until next time.
I forgot, man. I'm rusty.
This is yours.
I know.
You need to practice before you apply.
I know, man. I will. I mean, I need to, but it's been busy, man. That's the real excuse. I've just been really, really busy, and that's the truth. Anyway, until next time, I'm Zach Gall.
I'm Yves Larose. This is your show. This is everything EOS. Go.